What's good, boys? It's Obly, and today I'm bringing you an Unholy Priory, just a +10. We have the Haste Affix, and we're playing the Rider Commander build. I don't flash my talents at the start here, which is kind of annoying for me. I don't know why I keep not doing this, but I will link all my builds in the comments like I always do. But yeah, I wanted to showcase a bit of Unholy, because I think it's kind of slept on. Unholy, Sand and Rider is actually silly slept on right now. But walking through this pool, I'm going to open up with Abomination Limb to start some wound ramping up, then do my Trinket, and then do Apocalypse and Unholy Assault. Unholy Assault being the last thing because it has the shortest duration. And then I want to try and pair Legion of Souls as close to Apocalypse as I can, but also I do want that crit Trinket to affect it. So I can't do the Trinket before Legion of Souls because it doesn't have that long of a time on it. But I mean, it's up for debate. Realistically, it's not going to be the difference between you getting a rank 1 and you getting a rank 2, or you timing a key or something like that, doing your Trinket before or after Legion of Souls. Not really an issue. I'd say if you really wanted to min-max, there's my talents by the way. I'd say if you really wanted to min-max, maybe you could do a Trinket first and then start your Legion of Souls afterwards. But you then have to wait one global anyway for Legion of Souls to put a wound on your main target before you can Apocalypse, so it kind of makes sense just to, in your downtime, do your Trinket. Anyway, we had a pretty decent pool there. I didn't deem this worthy enough of the Apocalypse, even though it was alive for 20 seconds, because we were about to go into this pool right here. So I thought, okay, I'm going to hold my Apocalypse for this. Now, as Rider Unholy, your 45-second window is pretty poo. There's not really much going on other than you summoning White Mane, the 4 set. So that's pretty much the only good part of your 45-second window. I mean, we're still being able to pump like 11 mil. We do have all the rest of our cooldowns up now, but I think we're going to wait until my next Apocalypse window, honestly. The best part about your 45-second window is the commander buff that you get from having Dark Transformation up, buffing all of your pet damage, including Legion of Souls, which makes it insanely important to always pair Dark Transformation / Apocalypse with your 1.5 minute burst. You never want to desync these. You want to cast as many Apocalypses as possible, but you never want to cast Legion of Souls or Unholy Assault on its own without Apocalypse. Okay, so we're going to kill that pack. We have all of our cooldowns ready for a nice big burst when we come and do these adds. The stats that I'm using at the moment, I've got 19k haste, 21k mastery, and the rest is in crit. It's like 11k crit, something like that. I'm using an alchemical chaos flask as well because I'm potting. Actually, I don't think I potted this dungeon. Not too sure, but anyway, I decided to switch it up and do the Trinket first, and then go into Legion of Souls and Apocalypse. I just wanted to see what it kind of feels like to switch them up, but we get a really nice burst going. So many yellow numbers. So even with the Footman defending a bunch of shit, we still managed to get a nice 25 mil burst, sort of for nothing there, for free. Everything dies super fast. Luckily, no one else is doing damage at that point, so I got to do all of it. Brilliant. I'm not too sure if warriors are 1.5 minute classes or not. Same with warlock. I don't really know. But here we don't really have much to play with. I'm waiting. This guy comes down, I put my Plague Bringer buff back on by just doing a naked Clawing Shadows, and then we go again. So with Unholy, when you don't have your Apocalypse, it's difficult for you to start the ball rolling with wounds. And honestly, when you play with Clawing Shadows, you're kind of playing a similar way to Vampiric Strike Sand Lane, where you don't really care that much about wounds. Obviously you do, but you don't care enough to the point where you would start Festering Strike, where you would Festering Strike one target to get those wounds to start that chain reaction, because eventually, by the time you get that done, you will have your Apocalypse. It's not a very long period of time where you're going in between cooldown windows where this is a thing. If you're going to spend runes on Festering Strike, the globals on 200k damage, you're better off just naked cleaving Clawing Shadows, honestly. And then by the time you naked cleave some Clawing Shadows, maybe you might get lucky enough and some procs of wounds will come, and then you'll get your Festering Scythe, and then the ball starts rolling from there. The best thing you can do is try and save Festering Scythe for the next pack if something's dying. If you get a Festering Scythe and things are relatively healthy, like 20%, you may as well just send that Scythe straight away, because all the wounds that go on those targets will then contribute to the next Scythe on the next pack. But yeah, so here we go. We have a nice 1.5 minute burst here. Nothing mental, nothing crazy, but we're pretty much just spamming Clawing Shadows. And then if my Death and Decay is not down, I might do my Festering Scythe, I might do my Epidemic, but realistically, when you do a 1.5 minute burst, it's not too important to spend your Festering Scythe as soon as possible because your Legion of Souls will be wounding everything. So what you can do is minimise the amount of time that you're actually casting Festering Scythe, because Festering Scythe, the actual damage from it isn't great. You basically just use it for the wound generation. If you've got that Legion of Souls constantly putting wounds on targets, keep an eye on how many wounds the targets have, because if you have like 4 or 5 wounds on everything, you don't need to spend that Festering Scythe. You can do a little bit more cleaving before you actually need to spend that. And then once your burst is over, or your Death and Decay has run out, then do your Festering Scythe, and then start Death and Decay cleaving again and send another charge. That way you utilise every global within your cleaving window as well. The 2-target cleave, excuse me. The 2-target cleave from Unholy is a lot better in Sandlane than it is in Rider, in my opinion. I think Sandlane pumps, actually. I think Sandlane is ridiculously slept on, and the execute damage from Sandlane is pretty nutty as well. But we're not playing that in this key. However, I will get a Sandlane key uploaded because it is definitely worth having a look at. It's a fucking funny key. I think I did 8.5 overall in Floodgate with Sandlane. It was crazy. I was streaming yesterday, and if you caught that, you saw the Sandlane key. Okay, so now we're doing our 2-target burst now. It's basically the single target rotation, but with Death and Decay down. Voice is starting to go. I might be dying anytime soon. Jesus Christ, I'm constantly like having to clear my throat. This is awful. It's definitely come from vaping. Speaking of vaping, anyway, okay, so during a 2-target cleave, you're just executing the same burst rotation as a single target. You are focusing on wounds as well, but you just have Death and Decay down for the entire time. At least as much as possible. You do want to try and make sure that you have Death and Decay charges for your burst windows, for your Apocalypse windows, but it's not that vital. It's more vital in Sandlane for this, so that you can guarantee you're spreading your Vampiric Strikes. But having Death and Decay down pretty much as soon as possible all the time just guarantees that you're doubling the damage of your Clawing Shadows. Jesus, I'll take a drink of water, and I haven't even got one. Okay, so this... Jesus. Fuck me, this is a terrible viewing experience for you guys. So we have Legion of Souls coming back, we have a Trinket coming back, and we have Unholy Insult ready. I'm going to wait for Apocalypse before I then send everything else. Trinket, then Abomination Limb, then Apocalypse, and then Unholy Assault, and let's blast. So you see how, because I have a ton of wound generation with Legion of Souls, I don't really need to spend that Festering Scythe until I'm confident that those wounds are going to get put to good use. I know that I'm delaying the next window, but honestly, with big packs like this, you'll have a Festering Scythe every like 2 globals, so it means you're just going to be spending more globals doing less damaging abilities, and realistically you don't need to be, because you're going to end up just overcapping your wounds. So there, for example, we just pulled a new pack. That was a good opportunity to do a Festering Scythe, because none of those new mobs would have many wounds, if any wounds at all. Now I know that my burst is coming up with Apocalypse, so I'm saving both my D&D charges for it. Let's bounce. We pop the D&D, pop the APOC, and then we go. So we're spending Sudden Doom procs as soon as possible as well, because we want our mages to spawn. Because we're playing a commander build, very important for us to have as many mages as possible, especially during our Dark Transformation windows. So I'm spending those as soon as I get them. Now we also are spec'd into Soul Reaper, and as Unholy DKs, you also spec'd into Reaping. Because of this, you do kind of want to search for something that you can Soul Reap. So like this Paladin, for example, has a lot of HP. I know I can get it off. Definitely worth doing, because then it's going to buff the damage of my Maguses. Now I have all of my cooldowns coming back. We're keeping a steady 10 mil per pack pretty much every time. I'm literally losing my voice mid-recording. Okay, so There's only 4 mobs here, but I know that my tank is going to pull this next pack as well. Big pull. Don't know who the fuck big pull is. But I'm going to grip that guy in so that I can get all of my abilities out. Trinket, Legion, APOC, Holy Assault. I guess I decided that that was actually nicer than doing it midway through, but fair enough, Obly. Well, that's fine. So because of the Legion of Souls, I'm just not doing Festering Scythe until I really need to. You can just have target through a couple of targets and just see. I mean, for me, I literally just look at the plater, and if the plater has a wound on each and every target, then I'm not going to bother Festering Scythe until at least one of them is gone, or at least they're at like 1 or something like that. Now, I also have a little target tracker as well, right next to my rune and my runic power bar. Basically, just tells me how many targets are around me, so I can see if I need to be doing Violent Plague or anything like that. It doesn't do it on single target; it only does it in AOE. But our single target burst in our 45-second window is not good. There's it's not nothing to write home about at all. I think when our execute phase is a lot nicer. That kind of bumps things up. In Mythic Plus, it's a bit more difficult to, well, especially at +10, it's a bit more difficult to fully take advantage of the execute that Unholy provides. So we're actually doing tank damage at the moment. Super shite. But our cooldowns are coming back. I'm saving my AMS for the 5-stack, by the way. I'm going to solo soak that on my own. So I can see that there's a fair amount of time before I need to soak, so I can definitely get a burst off here, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. There's the 5-stack there. We need to wait for the caster's shield to come out first. Then we can go. As Unholy, you also have a really decent range. And now, just keeping a little eye on my party's health. I don't want to kill my healer there, so I kind of just hesitated for one of the stacks. But it's all good. Now, with the 1.5 minute burst now involved, we are back to the same DPS as everybody else. We're not super trolling now. I'd actually go ahead and say that the damage from Sand Lane is actually better in single target as well, and the AoE is still really good. So if you can be in a dungeon where you can constantly keep reapplying your 7-stack buff and your chain pulling all the time, Sand Lane is actually a very viable option. This would definitely be a Sand Lane key. You could easily play Sand Lane here and do very well. We're finishing the boss off. I definitely thought it was worth propping my cooldowns there because the boss was quite healthy, and I will get my cooldowns back halfway through this pull. So if I'd have delayed my Dark Transformation, I would just be delaying future bursts. Just not really worth it. So we have like 15 seconds. Well, we have about 10 seconds before I'm going to start my burst window. But we have about 15 seconds before we'll be truly doing as much damage as possible. But that's good enough for me. So I'm going to open up with Trinket first, I think. And then Legion, APOC, and Holy Assault. There we go. So I'm going to just ignore Festering Scythe for a bit. I mean, everything's dying anyway. Literally next to no point even using it. I'm wondering, do I actually use it or not? Maybe I'll bring it to the next pack. I think I do. Yeah. Oh, right. Here. Apologies. I have to quickly AFK to let my girlfriend in the house, and then straight back in the chair. Boom. Let's go. No point pissing about. My Festering Scythe is about to run out, but I am just looking at what I can use on as quick as possible to just have it used. And I get a nice little cast off. Immediately after about 2 globals, I have it back again. So you see how you get it back so often in Mythic Plus that if you do just constantly cast it, it's not going to be the most worthwhile thing that you can do in your burst window. Outside of like Legion of Souls, fair enough. You're going to be doing like 2 globals, popping 2 wounds, getting your Festering Scythe back, putting the 2 wounds back on, then popping them. Fair enough, fine. But in Legion of Souls, when Legion is putting wounds on everything, it's a little bit different. All right, so I'm just keeping an eye on my buffs here, keeping an eye on Plaguebringer, and just spamming Clawing Shadows with Death and Decay down as much as possible. Leaving Death and Decay feels very terrible. We have a big fat pool here, and I've got all my big fat cooldowns as well. So, without further ado, fucking take it away, Obly. Do a big fat burst. Warlock dies, which means I get all this DPS. And somebody just subscribed, and I forgot that my alerts for the video are still on, so we'll turn that off so that thank you very much, subscriber. I basically record my videos through the same way that I do my streaming, and I'm not streaming right now, but it still shows the notification unless I turn it off, so you guys can revel in the celebration of a subscriber with me. Anyway, that was a good burst. We got a decent amount of damage out there. You're literally just spamming Clawing Shadows and Epidemic, Clawing Shadows, Epidemic, one of the two. You don't want to overcap Runic Power too much. I'd say if you overcap like a little bit, it's not the end of the world. Like it's Mythic Plus, so resources are a little bit more available than in a raid scenario. But the best thing to do is to weave your abilities together. So like 2 Clawing Shadows, 1 Epidemic, 2 Clawing Shadows, 1 Epidemic, something like that, because that way all the benefits of Epidemic or spending Runic Power come, all the benefits of spending runes come as well. You're not just fully exhausting one thing, then fully exhausting the other, and then you're just sat there and you can't do anything. Here it's just 3 targets, nothing special. You can't really do much other than just D&D cleaving with Dark Transformation. Now, because it's 3 targets, honestly, I don't really deem it very worth it putting wounds on to Brown Pike, because I'm doing at least a mil and a half with each Clawing Shadows that I do, so I'm doing like a 4.5 mil globals just by cleaving here. Putting wounds onto Brown Pike in AoE would literally just be giving me like 300k per pop. Like, what is the point? You may as well just naked Clawing Shadows for way more damage. Not only is it doing fucking no damage, but pressing Scythe itself is only like 200k and it's single target. So, or pressing Strike, 200k and it's single target. Alright, so now we're going to burst. You don't have to worry too much about Death and Decay charges when you run Legion of Souls, because you can guarantee that you always have 1 Death and Decay charge during your burst, and that is really nice. Well, during your 1.5 minute burst. By the time that your burst is finished, it's very likely that you will have recharged a Death and Decay charge. You might even get one off of Mograine as well. Well, you definitely get one off of Mograine in Raiders, because when you cast Legion of Souls, you summon all your guys, and he gives you a Death and Decay as well. Mograine literally is the worst rider in my opinion. You could actually, to be fair, as Unholy, there's slightly more use, but as Frost, if you roll Mograine, just log out and don't log back in. Pointless. So here I'm thinking, okay, we have 3 pretty healthy mobs. I'm going to Apocalypse because I want it to line up with everything else anyway, so I'd rather have a little bit of a decent cast off of it here. And I wasn't too sure if we were going to pull the boss as well. We didn't, but I would say this is a fair and full usage of Apocalypse, because there's no more big packs coming up. This is it. That was the most amount of packs I could have used it on, and it would enhance any of the Shadow Bolt cleaving that my Magus was doing while those ads were still alive. Now the main thing here is just to try and stay close enough to Prioress Merprey that Necrotic Aura or Unholy Aura, whichever one it is, I forgot, stays on the target. Now the problem with Unholy Aura is that there are some bosses where, what is that? There are some bosses, or not even bosses to be fair, some dungeons where the buff actually just doesn't go on them, and that's just a pure bug. I don't think there's anything we can do about that. Like, sometimes it just doesn't go on it. Ecodome is really bad for this. Somebody gave me another example, but I've kind of forgotten. When you do Unholy and keys like those, so like Ecodome for example, I played Sand Lane in an Ecodome, averaged over 8 mil, and I just had to play Disease. You have to play Disease in those scenarios until they fix bugs like this. It's so shit. It's the same for Raid, where there's a couple of Gallywicks last season wouldn't have Unholy Aura applied to it. It was very, very rare that it did, and there was like the Gambit boss, the Dragon boss, you had to be right underneath them in order for Unholy Aura to be applied. Honestly, they should just buff Unholy Aura by like 10 yards instead of 8, and just see if that does anything. Like, surely that can't be game breaking, but realistically in scenarios like that, you just have to switch to Super Strain. I mean, I think Commander is super good. I think it's very, very good. It's very, very nice to play, different. I mean, we've just had a season of Super Strain, Sand Lane. Playing Commander is actually very welcome change for Unholy. I mean, I'm playing Unholy and Frost right now. If I had to pick one, I would say that I'm currently more enjoying Frost. But Unholy is simpler. Unholy is very easy to just spec straight into and start playing. There's not much of a of like a gatekeep that you have to pass. Gatekeep? Not much of like a prerequisite that you have to do in order to start playing the other spec. You can literally just spec straight into Unholy if you have good rider gear and play rider, no problem. With Sand Lane, I'd say that you need to get that like haste and mastery cap. But at the end of the key, let's pause the video. Let's see if I grab up the DPS breakdown. There we go. So let's pause the video now. So pretty decent. Now I've got the Frost video up as well. So today I'm uploading 2 Priories, this one and my Frost Priory, both level 10 with the same group. Trying to do as similar as a side-by-side as I can with Rider Frost. We do tremendous amounts less than Unholy Rider right now. I honestly don't think Rider Frost is... I feel like it's getting too good of a rap right now. Like Deathbring is better, Unholy is better. The single target from Rider, I wouldn't even say is that good. I've tried it in Raid and I'm never doing more damage than DB every single time. And I like to think that I'm pretty good at playing Rider. I mean, my stats are pretty decent as well. I can get the 25% cap and then have some crit left over too. I just think, realistically, with the 4 set, that's the only thing that gives it some extra oomph. And even that extra oomph isn't really enough. But anyway, we're talking about Unholy. The damage breakdown here with the commander build, the Magus does so much. White Mane does loads. So my White Mane damage here, every time I epidemic, White Mane epidemics for 125% effectiveness as well. It's so vital for you to be weaving so that White Mane does loads of damage too. Clawing Shadows and Bursting Swords as a whole, they're doing, I mean, let's see if I move my mouse. Yeah, stop there. Bursting Swords 700 mil, Clawing Shadows 1.1. So as a whole with those two, you're looking at 1.8, and then there's probably some wounds here doing like 100 mil right down here. Maybe like 1.9. So each global of Clawing Shadows is super important, but each global of Epidemic is even more important to her. So yeah, that's Unholy right now. Unholy's pumping. If you like Unholy, you're eating good. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with DK bits and bobs. And if you want to get some coaching from me, just hit up my links in the link down below for my coaching. Also for my UI as well. If you want to get that, it is available to Twitch subs. So head over there and you can get it for free. Bye. Bye.